You don't have to go through your whole presentation yet, we'll save you.
Comments or questions? Again, we have our professional engineer here as well.
So I'll just comment that these types of devices, the reason why they're here in front of the board is, number one, they're putting it in the right of way, and PennDOT requires any type of device like this to be owned by the township. So the board, if you consider this and if you want to follow through with their request tonight, there would be a future agenda item authorizing the township to sign the agreements that need to be put in place to make this all happen. It's not unusual. I mean, speed devices are one thing, but now PennDOT makes us, like, if you're in the state right away, nobody in a private can own a private pipe in the state right away. PennDOT makes makes the municipality take over the pipe in the right of way. So I'm drawing the same analogy. We usually have third-party agreements whereby the pipe is in the right of way and they perpetually maintain it. You technically own it, but the township does, but it's perpetually maintained by the private property owner by agreement. So I guess this is the same thing. That, I mean, it's kind of analogous in that they're offering to pay to put it in, pay to maintain it, have the agreement in place. The only thing in effect is the township officially owns it. That's really, if I can summarize it. So it is precedent setting. You might get other people to want to come and do this, but again, I just know that I think these speed devices are effective. I'll just give you my general comments, because when you see that device every day and it reminds you how fast you're going in a neighborhood, which is 25, people are going faster than that. And yeah, I'm sure they are. So I don't think it's that bad of a precedent, as long as, again, somebody else is going to maintain it. But again, that's a board decision. That's just my
Keep
opinion.
in mind, there's no formal vote that's going to be taken on this tonight. So you, as board members, can ask questions, but we're not going to give you our opinion until it's a specific agenda item, which at the earliest would happen next month.
I have one question. When you mentioned it's going to be in a 50-foot right-of-way, but you said you'd be responsible for getting in extra property. What did you, I thought you said...
If required, there's two landowners that we're talking about. And if required, we need to provide anything in writing from them. We're prepared to do that.
It's going to go in front of somebody's house,
It's on their lot, not necessarily.
like right on the lot line, right?
It's on the lot line.
I'd be curious, like you said, speeding and was a significant issue. Have you come to previous board meetings? Like, I'd be curious to see the communication and the amount of speeding that's actually taking place on the street.
As I stated earlier, I think some of our discussions started with Dawn December 2019, which is about the timing when the Ironwood Phase 2 development was completed. And that added about 35 homes to the existing 71 or 72 homes. So there's a noticeable increase in the traffic volume at that point in time, which is, I think, about the point we started discussions with Dawn. Again, we've had the benefit of working with the township police and putting up temporary devices. Again, those seem to be very effective. But once they're taken off the property, then we're back to the old habits again.
I was told by certain policemen that about 80% of people speeding are people from Ironwood.
Well, I mentioned that earlier. The bulk majority of the people are
I'm just,
that actually live in the neighborhood.
I'd be interested to see some sort of study or something, because I am curious whether or not this is going to be effective. Because if you're speeding, like, there are roads that are cut-throughs where it's not always the same group of people cutting through, and so I think that something like that may be effective. I am curious, though, if the majority of the people speeding in your neighborhood are, in fact, residents who live there, because you're not cutting through Ironwood to get anywhere else, if it would really be a deterrent.
Well, I'd ask you to rely on your engineer, who just stated a moment ago that he believes that it is effective. The township police have temporary devices that they tow to other neighborhoods, so I gotta believe if the township's using it, it's,
I'm sorry, but I don't believe people even pay attention to that.
Yeah, we use it.
I've seen so many people And Sean had moved that thing around quite a bit.
We use
That
it.
the right lane ends on 50 and everything. People don't even slow down, don't pay attention to it. They're just immune to them.
We use
I mean,
it.
Bob has one in front of his house. And I'd like to see a picture of how big this thing is and everything.
We provided drawings, the size and so forth. I mean,
Understand though, when we put up the speed trailer, like we have the ability to track and almost do a study, so we can see like speeding. He said, this is precedent setting for us. So if we allow you to do it on Ironwood, then we would essentially have to allow anybody on any township road to do that. And I think that's something this board really needs to consider before we just
I'll go back to my initial point, that this is a safety matter. I would think that this is something that you would want to consider. It's not a setting precedents. I think it's a matter of preventing an accident. If we're willing to pick up the cost of permitting, engineering, construction, let us use our neighborhood as that test pilot.
Could be setting a good precedent.
I'm sorry?
Could be setting a good precedent.
Correct.
We are after the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, and that is our job function. I see those used in Peters, but I wonder if they were set up by the school over there. I see them by certain schools and things, but have you seen that? The solar panels with the flashing lights?
I've seen them in Peters Township. I'm not sure.
They're becoming more popular, more and more. I travel all throughout western Pennsylvania, paving various neighborhoods. They're popping up in Collier Township, Upper St. Clair. He's becoming more popular. I'd be an advocate for him.
Are there any residents against this project in the?
We had a vote among the 71 existing homeowners in the initial neighborhood. Roughly 2/3 of the vote came back in favor of it.
If I'm being honest, I'm concerned though that there are neighborhoods and streets in the township that can't afford to bear that cost on themselves. So is it right to allow, and we have to, I don't know how I'm gonna vote, I have to think about it, but like, is it right to allow you guys to do it because you can afford to bear that cost, but there are other streets where we know speeding is an issue and we're working to curb it, that maybe is more, speeding is more prevalent and a bigger issue than say your road, and we're still working on those things. That's my concern, because I will tell you speeding is a problem across the township. And so, and I can tell you, I know for sure that most residents can't afford and most HOAs cannot afford to bear that cost. So I do worry a little bit about that.
And maybe one more works, maybe one less for the police have to.
They shouldn't be penalized, I believe, because they can't afford it.
Sean, what's your opinion of this?
I'm actually not really familiar with the devices permanently being in the neighborhoods, but unfortunately, the trailers, they do stay up, and after a while, people do not pay attention to them. And the nice thing about our trailers is that you can actually get the amount of cars, what time the violations are occurring. So I don't really have any data on Ironwood, so I can't really say whether or not there's even an issue over there. It is very difficult for us to sit there. Of course, you know that. We need sight distance. There's no sight distance on that road. And violation speeds, and I stress to the board, just get us 25, and they can be going 35. So unfortunately, that is the difficult thing to slow cars down, but I appreciate the fact that, we're looking out for everyone to slow down and be cautious, because there are kids over there, so. But I don't have any data on that.
Frank mentioned a lot of municipalities. Did you check with some of the chiefs and see if maybe they've had good experiences with it?
Yeah, actually, I had a chance to talk to Frank, so I'm going to talk to Upper St. Clair, and I think Bethel Park was Collier Township too.
Peters, as I saw, are you able to, as you've done for Baker Road, based on the residents' request, are you able to do the same for Ironwood and maybe get a little preliminary study before next month?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Absolutely. Not on Ironwood.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. That'd give us a head start.
Brian just reminded me of one thing here. The technology that we're looking at actually has camera devices on these units that allow us to actually photograph the car and the speed, so we can literally clock what's happening there. Now, we're not in a position to issue citations, but we do have a community website, so the intent was, if we have that technology, we can post the car and the speed on the website so that our neighborhood can see who are the culprits. So
Self-governing.
if you can ignore it for a period
You
of
might
time.
want to check with a lawyer before you
I don't like
publicly
that
shame
at all.
people for speeding.
Not at all.
Well, the technology is available.
I'm just saying, I'm 100% against that.
I would be very cautious about doing that. Just, I mean,
You're after
I'm
my
not a lawyer,
police.
but
The technology is available, that's why we're investigating.
But you're acting like police.
Well, even if it's going to knock on their door and say, hey, we know it's you. It's community policing themselves, like a neighborhood watch. So in meeting with them, the two recommendations we gave them were speed tables and these signals. That community wishes not to impact all residents with the placement of speed tables. I do think that that's a item that has been installed within Cecil Township road. And that causes issues or at least surrounding areas that have them. And it does impact road maintenance, plowing. It does impact every resident that has to travel over the place. And this is a situation that I've been described to, that's not every resident that's speeding. It's a select few, and they just don't get it. So they are willing to spend the money to target those few to point it out to everybody and say, hey, this is an issue in this neighborhood. So the technology's there if you wanted to shame somebody, either privately or publicly, if it's legal. But it's a neighborhood that can afford to spend money. I think it's necessary or we wouldn't have been this far.
okay. It will appear as an agenda item. We're just going to ask Sean to get us some of that information like Eric suggested. And then it will appear as an agenda item in December. Thank you.
Does Sean's equipment have the capability of gathering the data that you're looking at, that we could put it back into the neighborhood?
What do you mean that we could give it to you to put out? I don't know.
Like he's done before. Does it collect the data?
I can actually share that with the board, and then they can decipher what information I can give out due to the fact that it is police equipment, and we are providing for the board of supervisors for that study. So I could give you a general idea of what speed is occurring, what times, but to give that data in a sheet to you, I can't do that.
But we can generally share with you once it's provided to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizen general comments and questions?